I've got my fabric out because remember, clay will stick to the table. So put some newspaper or fabric down because we're gonna roll it out and you don't want it to stick to the table. All right, we got clay. I'm gonna get maybe just a corner about this big. It's not very much clay. All right, maybe I need a little bit more. My clay is getting a little dry. If your clay is getting a little dry, I think I got this at the dollar store. This is just a squirt bottle. Okay, just like 3 squirts. And then please twist and wrap it back up. Okay. Okay, everybody's following along? Okay, with this lump of clay that I just got, the clay in the bag is already air-free. It's already wedged, so I'm just going to kind of take it and just sort of get it non-lumpy. Hi, Ray. Hi. By rolling it just to get the lumps out. So I'm just rolling it on both sides. Ray, you're not helping, but you're cute. Oh, I love you. You're cute and I love you, but you're not helping. You're not helping. Okay. All right. All right. If you have any big wrinkles, what I want you to do is just kind of smooth them out with your hands. Okay, if you have a rolling pin, what I'm going to ask you to do, for anything that's flat and cylindrical, I'm going to have you start gently rolling it out with your rolling pin. Now, not only rolling this way, but also rolling that way. Do it gently, because if you roll it too hard, too quickly, it'll stick to the rolling pin. Oh my gosh, Ray, you are something else today. Ray. Okay, if you don't have a rolling pin, there is a way to flatten it out. Here's what you do. You take this and you kind of throw it this way. Okay? So you got to make like a 45-degree angle like that, and it will flatten it. So if you don't have a rolling pin, you can still flatten it without a rolling pin. Don't do this. That's not really doing anything. Okay, you got to do this each time. Now we're going to roll it out flat until it gets maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. Okay, see how thin this is? That's probably as thin as I want to get it. Any thinner, it might be too fragile. So this is a good thickness. If it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, that's pretty good too. Now, if you want to cut this out into a more perfect shape, you can with your fettling knife. I actually don't mind the rough edges, but I don't have a fettling knife either. But let's say you want to cut it out. This will do the job.
You can kind of just cut it into an oval with your fettling knife. Okay.
Okay. Now just take that extra clay up and peel it away. Now, what do you do with this extra clay? To avoid it from getting dried out to the point where you have to recycle it, I would just take it, if you want to spray on it, and I'm going to put it back in the bag. Okay. Okay. Also, what I like to do after I freshly cut something is just take either your fingers or even a plastic bag does the trick, and let's just smooth off that cut, because it is a pretty clean cut, but there's just a few rough edges that kind of bother me a little bit. Okay, for the next part, I'm going to need some toilet paper. If you saw the picture that I showed you in the beginning, we're going to make a taco fish, and so you kind of put some toilet paper in it and fold it up like a taco. And so just to keep it from collapsing on itself, that's what the toilet paper is for. Right now I might have a little bit too much toilet paper, or I can smash that down. I don't want the toilet paper to get in the way because I need to connect this and this. Okay? All right. Okay. This is the main thing I want you to accomplish with this assignment, working with clay. Knowing how to score and slip two pieces together. So, I'm going to have you fold this up and score and slip this to this. Okay? So remember how we score and slip. You're going to take your plastic knife, dip it in the slip. You're going to score it right here. So that means going back and forth. Just dip it right in the slip. You're going to score and slip the other side. Okay. Really score and slip it. Now, we're going to put the two pieces together. Okay, so I'm going to get a little closer. Right up there, you can see how I'm joining these pieces together. It's not scored and slipped right there because that's going to be the fish's mouth. And I'm just giving it a gentle push all the way down. I'm going to leave this part open as well. Then I'm going to smooth just a little bit with my sponge. Okay, my sponge is not dripping wet. It's just a little bit damp. So, and your clay is really wet, so I would be really fragile with it. But I'm just going to go over this real quick. I'm probably going to do some smoothing later with my sponge as well. You can see how like it's really wet right now. Okay. Now, this is a fish, right? But I need to add some details to it. Ray's outside. Okay, so for example, the details, I could make some scales up here just by kind of pinching it now that I've scored and slipped it. And you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. Be as creative as you want with your patterns and textures. I just want you to start to get to see what clay feels like. Okay, I'm actually going to score and slip this a little bit more right here because I want the tail to be a little bit smaller. So, there we go. Just scoring and slipping more of it. Continuing that. Okay. Now, if you put a little tray of water here, you can kind of take this and really stretch out your clay if you want to. See how clay stretches when it gets really wet? Because I want to stretch the tail out a little bit. Now it is possible to get it too wet, okay? So, but if you take this and you kind of fan it out and stretch it, and this takes a little bit of practice. So, worst case scenario, if you're working on this and you're like, oh my God, I completely fell apart, just put this clay back in the bag, grab a new fresh piece of clay and start again. There is no penalty. Clay can be reused as many times as you want, and you can start over as many times as you want. So, just don't get it too over wet with your sponge because it's already pretty wet. So, all right, that's the tail. Okay, and now for the fish, you know what I'm going to do, and this is just me. I'm going to thin this out a little bit. Just got some wet fingers. I'm going to thin this out. Again, this is totally optional. The main thing I wanted you to do with this today is learn how to work with clay, learn how to score and slip two things. As long as you've done that, it'll be good. Anything else on top of that is just kind of extra. I also want you to start learning when clay has had too much and when it's just done and you need a new piece of clay. Because sometimes when you're working with clay, if things don't go right, you can fix it. And sometimes when you're working with clay, if things don't go right, you just need a new piece of clay. And either one is totally fine. Like I said, if it messes up, just put the clay back in the bag, get a new piece of clay. No worries. Okay, I just kind of like the way that folds over a little bit, so. Okay, if you want to make some eyeballs, you can. Let me roll it in my hand. And I'm going to flatten them a little bit. Okay, that's a pretty big eye, but I don't know. I think fish have really big eyes. Okay, roll it, flatten it. Okay, and then I'm going to take, you know what, this pen looks pretty good. I just wanted to have kind of some eyeballs. There's a lot of things around your house that can make some pretty good patterns and textures. All right, dipping this right in the slip. Remember to score and slip that. Otherwise, it will fall off when it's dry. Boing. There we go. How's that? Push back on the other side. Score and slip here. Okay, now anything else that I add would just be embellishments. If, you know what, if you wanted to, you could add fins right here on the side. Also, if you wanted to, you could kind of just cut them out. What happened if I did that now? Do we like that? I don't know. If you totally want to add new fins, you can. I just thought, I don't know what would happen if I just cut them out. How do I feel about that? I have thoughts. Okay. That is the basis of making a taco fish. However, you can and should go through it and clean up the edges. And you can and should go through it and add some patterns. But please make sure it looks good and smooth. You can add some eyelids. You can take this and start to add some scales. Okay. And then when you're done, remember how I take the photo to turn it in. You're going to take that background piece of paper that I gave you in your kit. It's just a long white piece of paper. And you're going to, this is still really wet, so be careful with it. Put your fish on it and photograph it just like that. Okay?